Ever since I was a little kid, I was fascinated by the relationship between representations and reality, the stories we tell and the real lives we actually lead. I grew up in a very small town in the middle of nowhere in eastern Oregon, and so I lived my life vicariously through books, pop music, and lots of television. I actually collected TV guides, and I would annotate them with my own critical commentary on the shows, and I would get the Nielsen ratings data from the local paper, and I would put that in there as well, and I would never throw them away. My mother hated this. I thought that if I understood what was popular, what stories people really liked on television, I would understand that big world that stretched so far beyond the city limits of my tiny hometown. So fast forward now, I live in Los Angeles, I'm a media researcher, and I have the opportunity working at the Norman Lear Center to study media's impact on society, what stories we tell and how they impact us. I just did a study recently on the documentary film Food, Inc., and we found that people who watched this film, compared to very similar people who didn't see the film, actually ate healthier food, and they fed healthier food to their families. Another study at the Norman Lear Center found that people who watched an episode of Numbers were more willing to volunteer to donate their organs after they saw the character that Rob Morrow plays do so on the show. So our research has shown over and over again that stories not only depict the real world, they have a chance to actually change it. Now, one of my favorite projects at the Lear Center that I've worked on for years is a series of studies trying to figure out whether there truly is a statistical correlation between one's entertainment preferences and your political beliefs. Now, if you ask any survey researcher, it's really not very productive to ask people to label themselves politically. So we diagnosed ideology based on people's responses to dozens of charged political statements about hot-button political issues. Then we did statistical cluster analysis in order to figure out whether there were clusters of people who responded to those political statements in similar ways. And there were three groups, and we ended up calling them conservatives, liberals, and moderates. And lo and behold, they had very different entertainment preferences. Conservatives were into Leno. They liked Monopoly. CSI and House were their favorite primetime shows. They liked Fox News, surprise. They said their favorite leisure time activity was reading, and they were the biggest sports fans in our sample. So it would be statistically more likely that you would find a conservative at a live sports event than, say, a liberal. You would find a liberal, perchance, in a venue like this. They tend to gravitate toward arts and culture events, musical concerts. They like Trivial Pursuit, they like Mario. They said their favorite leisure time activity was surfing the web. And their late night go-to guy, yes, surprise, surprise, it's Jon Stewart. Favorite primetime show was 60 Minutes, and they said they really don't like reality programming. Guess what? Moderates love reality programming. And they also like Scrabble. They like Dance Dance Revolution. And they were huge television viewers. And they said that that was their favorite leisure time activity. So, obviously, not many overlaps in entertainment taste here among these three groups. And I was a little disappointed by this because I thought that one thing I would discover were some cultural touchstones, some things that were shared across the political divides in this country. But these people didn't even agree about board games. There were some commonalities. House, insanely popular across the board. Football, surprise. And rock and roll, equally liked across the groups. We also asked about film and television genres. Which ones do you like? Well, they also divvied those up. The only overlap was between liberals and moderates saying they liked drama and educational programming. So it turned out that there was a significant correlation between entertainment preferences and ideology, more so than I actually thought. And it did actually firm up this childhood belief that if you understood what stories people like, you would know something serious about the real world. Now, this survey data does not tell you anything about causation. I don't know if your taste actually impacts your politics or vice versa. But if you tell me enough about your taste, I could probably predict your politics, and vice versa. Now, I have always wanted to scale up this research to a global scale. It'd be so interesting to look at the clusters that emerge there. So, when I had the opportunity last fall to do a version of this survey in Tunisia, the cradle of the Arab Spring, I took it. What we did is we put together a poll that we administered to 2,300 Tunisians on a mobile phone. And it meant, of course, that we would have a skewed sample. They would probably skew younger, they did, and more internet savvy, they were. But that was fine, because that's a very interesting population to know about, especially at this historical moment. So on a mobile phone, you can't ask 52 questions about ideology, so we had to narrow it down. We focused on cultural politics, the relationship between religion, government censorship, and their views on media and entertainment. We asked them specifically about the animated film Persepolis, which actually depicts God, and it was aired on Tunisian television. We asked them also about the anti-Islamic film Innocence of the Muslims, which caused so many violent protests. We were surprised that our sample actually skewed very conservative. And it was the conservative group that was most fascinating to us, because their entertainment preferences sounded a lot like liberals in the US. They were huge web surfers, more so than the other two groups. They didn't like reading so much, they preferred gaming. But when they do read, it's not religious texts that they look at, no. It is romance novels and science fiction. Those were the top two genres. They love Hollywood entertainment. They were the biggest consumers and proponents of Hollywood blockbuster films. And get this, they were the most likely among the three groups to endorse this statement: US entertainment has a positive influence on the world. So much for our received beliefs about cultural and religious conservatives in the Middle East and their anti-American views. The picture is much more complicated than that, but the only way you know that is if you ask the right combination of questions on the right platform. Now, we also asked at the last minute, we couldn't control ourselves, an open-ended question. We asked them, what's your favorite movie of all time? And we got answers in Arabic, in French, in English, and guess what it was? Oh my God. I was so disappointed. And I've had to listen to this Celine Dion song so many times now. So it was Titanic. I shouldn't have been surprised. You know, ever since the Cold War, we've discovered that popular culture is tremendously good at overcoming even the most entrenched cultural and national and political barriers. And some people have said, for instance, that Hollywood films and TV shows actually have more impact on global opinion about the United States than our foreign policy does. We have to wonder, why was Baywatch and The Bold and the Beautiful and House, for years at a time, the #1 shows in the world? Why do kids in China worship LeBron James? Why are Brazilians obsessed with Harry Potter? You know, these questions aren't trivial. I think we forget that our entertainment interests actually tell us something very powerful about our personal and social aspirations. And this is the kind of information that corporations need when they put marketing campaigns together internationally, and what governments should know when they're crafting their foreign policy. Now, I think we often get so fixated on defining people in terms of their ideology, defining them in terms of their demographics, their race, their gender, their nation, where they come from, that it often obscures information that's probably much more important about them, what they enjoy, what they love, what captures their attention. I think when you know this, you know the most important thing you can know about anyone. All right, thank you. Thank you.